Sometimes we find ourselves where we just feel stuck in our careers, stuck in what's the next thing, and we're not really quite sure what's the cause of being in that stuck place. But what if it were true for your situation that you have not because you asked not? Today, I am over the moon excited because I have a woman here who has built a business that helps people to get out of that stuck place. My name is LaShay LaRue, and welcome you guys to another episode of Entrepreneurship Now, where we help you to figure out how you can attract those aligned clients that God has called you to serve, build better systems, convert consistently, and scale to meet all of your goals. And as your host and coach for this season of growth, I am always on the lookout for things that can help us make sense of this crazy world. There are so many things that are going on where people don't necessarily even know if they're going to have a job from day to day or know if their business is going to be able to sustain during this really difficult time. And you really can't do it alone. So I want to introduce you guys to Miss Elaine Beattie. Say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here.
Now, I want you to tell them in your own words, right? Tell them a little bit more about your business and who God has called you to serve.
Thank you. Lachey, I really believe that I've been called to serve leaders, leaders in ministry, leaders in the marketplace, to help them. And this is the words that he told me to help them finish before they faint. And you would say, what do you mean by that? Well, I believe that as business owners, we're visionaries. God has given us a vision, and we have a responsibility to carry that vision out, to make it happen, to offer it to the world. And I realize that we've been given gifts and talents, but we don't have it all. And so my job is to make sure that the people that I work with, that they're ready, that they're resilient, and that they can stay in the game. So that is the work that I do.
Stay in the game because a lot of us are out here fighting for our lives, okay? Whether we are in the 9 to 5 struggle or the entrepreneurial hustle, it is a lot when you are driven, when you identify as a
Mhm.
perfectionist, when you do have lofty goals for yourself. So let's talk about the specifics, okay? Let's talk a little bit more about how you work with clients and what you're able to help them accomplish.
So clients come to me for several different reasons. Oftentimes, they want to move to the next level. Now, this could be somebody who's employed, or maybe somebody who is in their own business, or someone who's employed and wants to transition into their own business. And so that's the readiness part. So I look at, and I always start with a self assessment. In fact, my framework is called SEAT because I want you to be in the seat, right? That you deserve and that you see yourself being in. So seek being self-awareness, right? So we usually start with some kind of assessment, quiz, something like that, because I need to see all of who you are. And then it's moving through the different parts of the framework. I wanna make sure, again, that we are self-aware, that we're aware of the people that we work with. I wanna make sure that we understand that we're always learning. So what is it that we have to learn, right? I'm a lifelong learner. I hope that you are. I hope that people listening to this are, because there's always something for us to learn. And so then it's exposing people to resources, books, podcasts, right? Masterminds, whatever it is that will get them to the next level. And then it's about accountability, right? Because we can set goals, we can do the work, but if we're not held accountable, right, it's not going to happen. And then last, the transformation. The glory for me, the joy for me is seeing people grow and to see them change from what they were into what God has called them to be.
Oh my goodness, so much to unpack there. And few things that I really just want to make sure we highlight is the fact that you have taken a very unique stance to a very real problem that a lot of people find themselves in, but don't know that they don't have to figure it out alone. Right. There are people out there who have seen themselves get passed up for opportunity after opportunity, and they're not quite sure why. And I love that you created something that can help a person to be proactive instead of reactive. And that's something that we really need to do in every aspect of our life. Although we can't control everything, we can give ourselves our best chance of success. And you're definitely doing that on a very personal level. And I wanna highlight the fact that you guys she's in the coaching space, right? In the same way that I am, yet what we do is vastly different, right? And coaching is one of those amazing things that allows you to take your personal experience and how you see the world and what you've been through with the world and find a way to help someone else who is either in the similar place to where you're at right now or where you've come from, right? And even though a person can be in professional coaching or business coaching, that doesn't mean that they both have to do the exact same thing in the exact same way, right? You can have two marketers and each marketing can have their own special method as it should. Right. So I want you to tell the audience a little bit more about how you decided to do this work yourself and how you decided to transition into coaching.
Thank you. Yeah, great question. So I was in the hotel business for 21 years, and I had set my sight on becoming a general manager. And when I was hired, when I was interviewed, I flew they flew me up to Boston, Sheraton hotels. I had 6 interviews in one day, and they said, "Elaine, you can be a general manager in 10 years." I'm like, "Great." Right? So, I became a management trainee. I hit the ground running. What do you think I did? 10, 12, 14, 16 hours a day, right? I'm working, working, working because I'm going to be that general manager in 10 years. Well, I'm watching people like zoom by me. And I'm thinking, what's wrong here? I'm working hard. I'm working long. I'm doing all this. Long story short, in my 20th year, in my 20th year, a girlfriend says to me, Elaine, you need an executive coach. Uh, who even knew that was a thing? Okay. I did not even know it was a thing. Then I come to find out that all these other people had executive coaches, and that's why they were soaring past me. Well, I did get an executive coach. At that time, I was the director of human resources for the first Black-owned hotel in Miami Beach. It was an honor. I was a general manager before. I did become a general manager. It took me 17 years, didn't take me 20, okay? So, that's the difference between having a coach and not a coach, believe. But it was also different standards because they were male standards too. And let's highlight here that women and men are on different trajectories, right? Okay. That's a whole nother program.
Mhm.
I say that to say that I hired a coach. I didn't even know what I didn't know. I didn't understand the support that she was able to give me, that the affirmation that she gave me, the strategies that we were able to come up with. And all of a sudden, I could feel like the intensity, I could feel the stress, I could breathe. I could breathe. And so after a year or two with her, I said, do you think I could become a coach? She said, absolutely. And then I realized with the experience that I had, with the education that I had, that that was something that I wanted to do for people. I didn't want to see good people, high performing people, people who really needed to be in the leadership seat struggle by themselves. I liked being a supporter. And so I retooled and became a coach. And I've been doing that now for about 20 years.
Such an incredible way of just combining everything that you've learned over the years, both personally and from your educational background, and then also seeing, right, what was working for other people, getting it for yourself and saying, "But wait, I can do this thing too." And I highlight that because right now, with the craziness that's going on in the world, so many people are looking for what's that next thing? What's something else that I can do? It's really difficult to comfortably provide for yourself with just a single source of income, right? Whether it is entrepreneurship or it is working a 9 to 5. Coaching is such a beautiful thing because that's a whole additional stream of income for you in any industry. And why is that? Is something that I want to highlight. Here's why. Because a lot of people right now are getting into the coaching space and they're basing programs and coming up with things that are built off of ChatGPT. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that ChatGPT is not an incredible tool. I use it daily. Like top 1% of all ChatGPT users, I'm doing 100 plus chats in a day. Okay. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is you have something that ChatGPT does not have.
That's
That
right.
is lived experience.
Yes.
Okay. So don't just ask what someone else's did. Do you see what my guest did? She took her lived experiences, what she was going through in her job, and saying,
Mhm.
you know what? Not happy with what's happening here. What are other people doing? What's making them successful, right? Let me make that change for myself, right? And then she learned about this new industry and she built her business from that foundation. And that's what I want to encourage you guys to do as well. Don't just look at what you see someone else doing. See how you can bring a big part of you to that new industry, to that new idea. And before you think, because some people think of coaching and they think of just life coaching, right? Which is very
Mm.
surface level, right?
Right.
If you own a successful barbershop, you can become a coach who teaches other people who either own barbershops or want to how to run that business successfully, right? That is a different type of coaching than someone who is just a general business coach, right? And it's a higher value. Let's bring this down to a base level that we can all understand. Which doctor is able to charge more? A general practitioner or family doctor or neurosurgeon?
Right, exactly, exactly. And let me just say that my specialty is working with leaders in the hospitality and retail space, right? So those high, volume, high customer contact, right? Burnout, the door, the turnstile is turning, right? Turning and burning people. So and so for that reason, you see leaders moving up very quickly, and that's when you know that there are some gaps in their knowledge and their experience. And I try to help them close that gap because they have the potential. They just need the education and the skill development. And because I am a trainer, I can coach and train.
I love that. I love that. I'm glad that you pointed that out because that brings me to something else that I see very often or hear from people of just questioning whether or not they need a coach, right? Because I'm already very talented. I already know how to do this. Um, so does LeBron James, but the last time I checked, he also had a coach, right? So
Say
it's
that
not
again. Say that again. Okay. And not just one coach. And not just one coach. And the most successful people that I know have 3 and 4 coaches. I've had 3 coaches at one time. When
yeah,
I tell you that I have invested oh, and here's another thing. If you're gonna hire a coach, make sure your coach has a coach. Okay.
that part. I mean, once again, for the people in the back, okay, if your coach has never had a coach, is not willing to invest into building themselves,
Big dollar.
questions.
Big
She
dollar.
can definitely have many questions. And I'm not saying that because I'm in the space. I'm saying that because it's true, you guys. I've seen it time and time again. And coaching is not one of those things that you just do one time and then you're done because you know everything that you need to know. As you go through life and you achieve new levels of success, you're going to have a whole new wave of problems. And your coach is supposed to help you through that. I've got clients where one in particular, when we first started, the goal was just to do more public speaking, right? And now that they're doing more public speaking, they've got all of these new business opportunities and new contracts that they need to create and new offers that they need to create that they never even fathomed when we first started out, right? So it really is an ongoing process. And if we had to boil this down to a key takeaway, is that when it comes to looking for new income opportunities for your business, it might not be as complicated as you think. Coaching services is definitely something you can add as a layer of your business. If you've been successful, help other people to learn how to be successful. There are so many there are coaches who are teaching people how to ride horses. There are coaches who are teaching people how to deal with grief. There are coaches who are teaching people
Yeah.
how to spend their money. And I'm not talking about how to do things as far as investing, right? I mean, general savings, how to get away from debt, right? There are
Right.
people who within that industry and they're doing it specifically for people in the medical field, right? There are so many options out there. And I want you guys to get creative and see how that could potentially be something that you do in your business. And at the same time, if you've never invested in a coach for yourself, it's definitely time to start
Right
looking.
now, right.
And
And
not because we're in the coaching space, but because it's the best, like, you need somebody on the outside looking in, right?
well, and you want to also be able to offer services with integrity, right? So if you're going to ask people to invest in you or, to invest in themselves, but, to pay you, then you have to model that. You have to understand what it's like. If I can be real transparent here, when I as I said, I invested in a coach, and then I became a coach, and then I got certified, right? I'm a registered corporate coach. So I spent money, right, learning my craft. The first small certification I had was in extreme self-care because part of my story and part of what I see happening for leaders is that they get burned out, right? So along the way, right, I am collecting certifications. Now, here's what I didn't know. I did that. I was coaching and my business was growing, at a slow speed, but it was growing. But can I tell you, 5 years ago, I saw this coach, when we were all in COVID, right? And I was like, who is this guy? And he was a storytelling coach. And I was thinking, ooh, I like him. So I invested. And then he introduced me to somebody else, and then he introduced me to his coach. Can I tell you over the last 5 years, I've probably spent about $75,000 in coaches. Now, I say that to say that the more you want to make, the more you will spend in making sure that you have the tools and the coaching and the education and the resources to go to the next level. We've all heard it. It takes money to make money.
Make money.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. It definitely does. It takes money to make money. And you do want to make sure that you're financially investing in your business. But one thing that I've also found that most people leave out of the story, it's that spiritual investment that you have to put in your business as a foundational element, not an afterthought, not a thank you for all the blessings, right? Like that foundational aspect of it. And I know that's something that you invested very heavily in as well. So tell the audience a little bit more about that journey for you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So as I was, in the hotel business and I'm, driven and I'm like praying, God, I want to get to the next level. I want to get to the next level. While it didn't happen, it's never a straight line to the next level. It's kind of, up and
Right.
down all around. I literally had to fall on my face. I literally had to surrender. I had gotten to the point where I was worn out, I was exhausted, I was doing a little bit too much partying, a little too much drinking, I mean, all that, and it came to a head, and I got scared that I was going to lose my job, my good paying job, as my mother said, and, I literally was brought to my knees, and that is when see, because before there's the Imma say BG. There was the before God and then the after God, right? It was all Elaine, and then it wasn't.
Right.
And then I grabbed hold with everything I had. And I wouldn't say it was all smooth sailing, but, we had to do a little cleanup here because the mindset was not right. Right? My heart wasn't right. Like,
Yeah.
it was all about me and what I could do and where I could go, and it wasn't about how I could serve people. I mean, I was in the hospitality people, I was taking care of people, but it was really all
Right.
about, like, where I could go and what I could be and all that.
Right.
So, I had to get right, and that took, you know, going to church, Bible study, being around mature Christians, reading books. I mean, I spent time getting drenched in the Word and being built up because when you go out on your own, you need to be fortified. And God knew that. God knew that. And I will tell you the only way that I was able to get through the latter part of my hospitality days is because I was holding on to God with everything that I had. And so I don't know how to do it any other way. I will not do it any other way. I'm a woman of prayer, great prayer. I get up every morning. I'm on a prayer line with a group of people, okay? I try to get out here and either walk or listening to, to some music. But I have to be spiritually grounded and spiritually set before I can even begin my work. Before I start with my clients, whether they are people of faith or not, and I always ask people when I start working with them, "Do you have a faith practice?" I don't care what it is. I just need to know you have something, right? Because then I can kinda work with you wherever you are. I know what I believe, and I honor whatever other people do believe. But the fact is that I pray that God uses me and that I can use His words and, give them what they need. And so the work is a lot easier. The lift is a lot lighter because I'm leaning into,
Yes.
the gifts and talents.
Yes. I am so glad that you were willing to share that side of you because I know there are a lot of people out there who have experienced what's known as church hurt. There are a lot of people who have come across individuals or they've just seen whole organizations that have left them with a very bad taste of what it means to be a Christian. And I want to speak to anyone out there who has been in that place. And because of that experience, it's made them want to go as far away from God as they possibly can. And I want to invite them into taking the time to explore a relationship with God for yourself because being a child of God, being a Christian, being a believer, it is not church, right? You
That's
can
right.
go to church, but it is not church, right? It is not just having people who call themselves Christian around you. What did she say? Mature Christians around her, people who were spiritually grounded, who could help her to get spiritually grounded.
Mhm,
She
mhm.
has her own prayer lines that she is a part of that is separate from just the church experience, right? And it's not to say that you have to overwhelm yourself and do all the things. It's to say that maybe your relationship can be built in a way that's different than what you've experienced in the past. If that thing back then felt really uncomfortable and didn't feel true to you, then use that. Use that as a very real experience and figure out what is the right fit for you. Right. And another thing that she said that I actually loved is that she said about how she wanted to wash herself in the word. And that is so incredibly important because a lot of people have opinions about God, about belief systems and all the things, but in reality, they've never actually read the word, not completely. And there are people who have been in the church home for decades and still have not read the word completely cover to cover yet. They have a lot of opinions and they're happy to call other people out on the hand set of scriptures that their pastor has gone over time and time and time and time and time again, right? Your journey is specific to you, it's for you, and it's not something that you should have to put in a box and put on a shelf and leave it at home when you go out to work, when you go into your business. It's something that you can take with you at all times to help you to be strong, to help you to deal with everything that life is going to throw at you when you're at work, when you're dealing with clients, because it is not easy and we all struggle. We all have those moments where we are brought down to our knees. It's one of the things we were talking about. A lot of us are out here fighting for our lives, just
Yeah.
trying to get through the day. And I know that I could not be where I'm at if it was not for the Most High being with me. Whether it is through the good things, the bad things, all things, He is a part of me. And even when things don't go the way that I wanted them to, I know that it is all for greater good. It is all a part of adding pressure to that diamond and me being able to reap those rewards later on, even if it's just in sowing a seed for someone else. So I hope that that encourages someone out there. And we've talked about the business side and we've talked about the spiritual side, but let's also talk about the personal side and bringing all the things together. And I want you to share with the audience a little bit more about how you find balance for yourself personally, because I know that you, just like me, just like many of us watching, you dealt with that burnout place. So,
Yes.
just a little bit more
Yes.
about that.
So first, I don't even use the word balance because I think balance is a misnomer. I don't know how in the world today with the roles, the many roles that we have with technology and all of our devices and, all the pulling that we have that we can find balance. But I do believe that we can find rhythm. And I
Yes.
think it's important that we establish a rhythm. Now, interestingly enough, because of my hospitality background, I worked 6 days and was off 1. And that is the rhythm that I have now. So my rhythm back then was work Sunday through Friday and be off Saturday. And it's still that. Saturday is my Sabbath. When I tell you I have no meetings planned, I stay in my pajamas. My husband knows I'm not cooking. I tell people I am Jewish. At 5 o'clock on Friday, I shut down. Okay. I shut down. We are ordering food, we're going out to eat something, right? I am sitting back, I am on Netflix or Hulu or whatever and zoning out, right? Or reading a book or what. Oh, or I might be visiting with some girlfriends or people who can pour back into me. I am very careful not to be around people that I have to pour out, right? It is a day for me to be refilled and to rest. I wanted to be the queen of rest. I am not. There's a wonderful doctor. Her name is Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith. She wrote this book. It's called Sacred Rest. That book changed my life. But I have always believed that it's important for us to have rhythm. And I talk to all of my clients and people about that. I do that. My husband's a pastor, so we're at church all day Sunday. Well, not all day, but we go to church. We go to church because he's preaching
Mhm.
and then we're visiting with other people. So to me, Sunday is church and to set up day. So I use that as a way for me to get prepared for the week, right? So it's meal prepping, meal planning, food, clothes, all that, right? Just preparing for my week. But when I look at my schedule, I try to make sure that it's work, clients, I have time on there for admin, my health, whether it's doctor's appointments or working out or whatever, and that I have time in there with friends and time for me to be by myself. So all that is on my schedule. Like it is on my schedule, color coded, the whole 9 yards. That's how I manage my life.
I knew you were my soul sister. I swear, I knew it. So, like you, Saturday is my Sabbath, okay? That is my day. Do not call me. You can call, I'm not gonna answer because if there is a chance that that conversation is going to require me to give, not today.
Yeah,
Not today
not,
is not the day for that.
not
Today
happening.
is the day for me to empty my cup so that I can pick up all the things that life, the world, family, friends, anything throws at me later. And it is so important to have that time. And I definitely struggled with getting into that rhythm. And I love that you said that. It's not about balance, it's about rhythm. I'm definitely still in that. I'm telling you in advance. I'm still in that.
And yours, yeah.
And when it comes to starting that rhythm, it was hard, especially because I'm incredibly close with my family. So my brother, my parents were all very close, and they had to get used to that schedule because they would call and I would not answer. And it was
Mhm.
very hard for me not to answer. But I found that if I did not, I didn't really realize it until I fully had adopted the rhythm, and I realized how much easier it was for me to deal with the whole week and how much easier it was for me to be present in every moment things because I didn't have carryover stress from last week that was coming into this week, right? In addition to that, like talking about those mindful moments and being fully present because that was something that I really struggled with. I would be here with friends, but then I would be like, "Man, did I send out that proposal? Did I schedule everything that I needed to do for that client?" Like, so I was even when I was having time with friends or family, even for that matter, I wasn't fully there with the friends in that moment. And once I started actually just building the rhythm that needed to work for me, and putting my friends and family on my calendar in the
Mhm.
same way that I put client work, I was able to honor that time that I set aside for that. So when I'm sitting here and it is girls' time, and even if girls' time runs over past that hour or two that we set for, I'm okay with that, right? Because I've already planned out the whole week. I knew this is what I was going to be doing in that time. And it actually really helped me to strengthen a lot of my friendships as well because I was consciously making time instead of finding time for them. I was giving them a place on the calendar that was special just for them. And I love to see that you have implemented that within your system and you shared that with my audience. You guys, she's dropping gems. She's dropping all the gems that we need to grab up, take with us, eat up. Like I love, love, love it. I have thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I thank you so much for your transparency, for your wisdom and sharing what flow, what rhythm that has worked for you in your life. And I want to tip my hat off to you for taking your years of experience and tailoring that to a form of entrepreneurship that truly works for you. I want to tip my hat off to you for actually being mindful in the way that you serve your clients because there are so many people out there who are just trying to collect a check. They're just trying to sell something so that they can get paid. And as long as they're making money, they really don't care. But we got to stop that, you guys. We have to stop that. That is not the way that God designed business to
No,
be. And it's not sustainable at the end of the day. It's really not. So thank you for being willing to take a stance against selling, right? And instead being a problem solver. Thank you And I want to make sure that you guys are able to get in touch with her because for every gem she dropped here today, she has a million more. And I want to make sure that you guys are able to connect with her. So I'm going to make sure that we have all of her contact information in the show notes for you. And I know that you have something a little special for everyone too. So tell them a little bit more about what that is.
Yes, I really believe, again, as you know, and I said it earlier, in being ready, being resilient, and again, being able to stay in place. And so I have designed a leadership readiness quiz. It's very short, 10 questions. You can get it done real quickly. And there's like a 30-day, if you take it, you'll get like a 30-day kind of action plan. Yeah, as a response. So hopefully that's a little helpful gift.
I'm interested. I wanna know what my score would be, so I'm gonna make sure I take that. I'm gonna be one of the first people who takes that quiz for you from this episode because, again, you have dropped so many gems and brought so much value to the conversation today. To everyone watching, thank you for joining us for another episode of Entrepreneurship Now, and until next time, bye, my cherished loves.